York, big city of dreams. New York, big city of dreams.
What's going on? This is Jay Ellis from the Nick of Time Show, here giving you that Knicks talk just in the nick of time. We're here to talk about the Knicks' new head coach, Mike Brown. No, it is not official yet. It is a foregone conclusion that Mike Brown will be the next Knicks head coach. They are discussing formalities and contract details, but it's been reported by Shams that those details will be ironed out most likely by the end of the week. So we're going to talk about it all, the good, the bad, and everything in between with Mike Brown and his hiring. And we also have our guy, Latin Assassin, Lee Escobedo, who's going to give us a little bit of insight on what's going on with Mike Brown, the Knicks, the hiring process, and everything else. So let's get to it. Before I get to it, I'm gonna introduce you to the peoples, the crew. First and foremost, shout out to the Latin Assassin, Bleacher Report contributor, ESPN contributor, my man Lee Escobedo. What's good, man?
My main man, Jay Ellis, my brothers Fritz and Ryan. Great to be here. Talked about the brand new Knicks coach post Tom Thibodeau. I'm sure this will be a very lively discussion, and I've decided to use my 10 years of reporting experience on sports to become the KOT mini insider. So I will be trying to bring some intel every now and then to our KOT Substack, and of course the Twitter feed, and most importantly the show, bringing on guests and delivering intel on what I'm hearing behind the scenes on Knicks and NBA at large news.
Yeah. If it sounds crazy, Lee, we're gonna bring you on Knicks for Clicks or Knicks Legit, all right?
I'm gonna guess 1 week until I'm on the show.
All right, nobody's excluded, not even our own. Of course, you already know. Next up is Mr. NBA Economy himself, best mod in the game, who doubles as a content creator. Our guy Fritz Alessandro. What's going on, Fritz? You muted?
Muted.
Taking Ebony's spot. Okay, right.
Okay, it's better. Okay.
Your volume is you got the Mac mic on instead of your
Okay,
podcast mic?
You hear me okay?
There you go.
Oh,
Now, yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so we finally have a coach, so I guess we know what direction we're going into. So we Lee's done his homework, and it's gonna let us know how well he can read them out.
Yeah. And we have one of the OG KOT, started it with me back in 2017. My guy, my man, the guy with the stats and the facts, Ryan G. What's going on, Ryan G?
Yes, sir. Mike Brown is the new head coach. At this point, I'm just like, it is what it is. That's all I can say. It is what it is.
Right. Yeah. And you know what this hiring? I kind of approach this hiring like I approach the Cat trade, where I'm like, wow, offensively, we should be really good. Defensively, I have concerns. It's pretty much my identical assessment from the Cat trade. Offensively, we should be really good. Defensively, I have concerns. The Sacramento Kings would have one of the best offensive ratings in the league when he got there, so I expect that can continue, especially the way, Karl-Anthony Towns plays that center playmaking position. Mike Brown kind of has done that with Sabonis, so I expect something very similar with the Knicks. Although I'm kind of curious how he uses the lineup, because it seems like the Knicks are actually leaning more towards the double big lineup. So that's going to be interesting. We'll see how he works with that. But overall, I do expect the Knicks offense to be a lot better and the defense to still be finding themselves. Unless we hire a defensive coordinator. I don't know. But let's get your thoughts on the hiring. We can go around the horn. Ryan G, what you thinking about the hiring?
Well, during our last podcast, you already know Mike Brown wasn't really one of my top choices. for the Knicks to become the new head coach. Seeing that they had Thibs and they fired him, I was hoping for a coach with fresh new ideas, a fresh new vision, a coach that, you know, just a coach that had like a fresh idea of what to do with the roster. Like a coach that was like kind of like a polar opposite of what Thibs was. And they went with a coach that, like I said during the previous podcast that we had, a coach that hasn't really won his career like that. He's had a lot of playoff experience. I believe his record is 50-40 in the playoffs, which is not too bad. But also at the same time, during his stint with Cleveland, he had LeBron, a young LeBron who was rising in this league as a superstar and wasn't able to get it done with LeBron. We reached the finals 1 year with the Spurs and got swept. With the Lakers, made the playoffs 1 year, got to the semifinals, then went to the Kings, and got knocked out by the Warriors in the first round. But I'm trying to look at it with a positive mindset. Hopefully he can do something with this roster. I think it is a positive sign that he is trying to get like established assistant coaches on his coaching staff to help him, with different aspects of the game, but like James Borrego, good offensive coach that should help transform the offense of the Knicks. My main concerns is that, especially on the defensive end, because like you said, JL, it's like it seems like with Mike Brown, he likes that 5-out look where the center can shoot the three and they just space out the floor and things of that nature. And then we already know the issues with Cat and Brunson. When you have both of them on the court at the same time, the defense is not as strong.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if they stick with that lineup, what changes can they do to try to hide both on defense, which is going to be really difficult to do.
Yeah.
But I think one thing I'm looking for is I think it'll be a positive sign to me that, they're willing to like switch it up a bit or like change their philosophy a bit. Like, for example, if we start the season and I see like Mitch and Cadden starting lineup together, because that wouldn't be a typical Mike Brown or James Borrego look. So that would kind of tell me like, okay, maybe they're trying to switch things around a bit and and try to, bring new ideas to the team and things of that nature. But overall, I'm just trying to keep a positive mindset about it. Hopefully, Mike Brown can finally get over the hump and bring this team to a championship. But at the end of the day, you look at the hire and you already know it's nepotism because he's mad cool at Worldwide West, Leon Rose, like he knows these guys from the days in Cleveland. So I'm just hoping for the best. Not my first choice. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
What you thinking, Fritz?
Oh, you're muted, Bo.
It's my mic. I think you saw a lot of people.
Your mic is you got the wrong mic.
Okay, 1 second. Is it better? Better now?
Nope.
No, you. Oh, let's see it. Okay, you can hear me now?
There you go. There you go.
Loud and clear.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Yeah, I think we saw a lot of people like crashing out on Twitter today. I wasn't one of those people, even though I had some kind of like strong language. It's not exactly what I wanted. It wasn't that I hate Mike Brown. It's just that we always kind of want something new. You want something cutting edge. But Mike Brown is kind of like a he's a professional, so he's going to take what Tibbs did and he's going to continue the journey. He's not going to reinvent the wheel. I don't think so. So I can kind of see it. I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm going to support him any way I could.
Right. Oh, I feel you. We're gonna keep open minds. That's all we can do right now. Lee, I invited you for a reason. I know you have a lot to say on this topic. I know you got a lot of information on this topic, so I want to get your thoughts on the Mike Brown.
Yeah, man, the last 10 years I've worked for a lot of different publications covering and writing about sports. I've mostly been a essayist, not so much a reporter, but I was hired on as a NBA insider with Sportsnaut when they launched in 2021, and I became fairly friendly with a lot of agents and team people because I had to write stories and project based on real things that I was hearing. I couldn't just do like these aggregation sites like Clutch Points where interns just come up with lists based on nothingness, like dream scenarios. I had to write based on real things that I was hearing when I was compiling my stories. And in that process, a lot of people I was talking to are now involved in some way or form with the Knicks. So I'll be transparent. My sources are not a garbage man or a janitor. I am friends with other media members who cover the Knicks or cover teams that do a lot of business with the Knicks. So I have learned, I have not known a whole lot of things beforehand, but I've learned a lot of the why behind things after they happen, which then lead me to have informed perception of the team and then predict what might happen in the future. And the thing that I've heard over the last 2 years, since I've really kind of leaned more into this on my own time, is to view everything the Knicks do through the lens of family. You think about the concept of family, how it connects between Leon Rose and World Wide Wes, how that connects between Leon Rose, World Wide Wes, and Tom Thibodeau, and how that connects between Leon Rose, World Wide Wes, and the new head coach, Mike Brown. If you thought that Tom Thibodeau, Leon, and World Wide Wes had the perceived family closeness, it is tenfold more with Mike Brown. Mike Brown is the one of the closest people and longest friends of World Wide Wes. The number one champion in this hiring was World Wide Wes. And I'm not going to say that they went into this coaching search with Mike Brown as the undisputed leader and everything was smokescreen, but I am going to say that throughout it, someone else had to absolute floor them with either a philosophy or the way they answer questions in an interview or a personal ideology in order for it not to be Mike Brown. And Mike Brown won out not just because of the relationships, but because he is a kind of voice, both a balancing of authoritative leadership, but also willing to collaborate and take insight, not just from the front office, but more so the coaching staff, to where if there are elements of the offense or defense, rotations or substitutions that could be maximized from the viewpoint of someone else on the bench or adjacent to the coaching staff, he is going to consider that more so than just with a shrug or a groan or a grunt. He's actually going to consider it and then implement a version of it or it completely in order to fully maximize the team. He is willing to listen to other voices. And that was something that became less and less prominent in Tom Thibodeau's last year and a half with the team and eventually eroded when he became kind of a force of disagreement between himself and Brock Aller with some of the moves and transactions that were being made. I only know very little insight on the Tom Thibodeau expulsion from MSG, but what I hear makes a lot of sense. And Mike Brown's relationship with World Wide Wes is the absolute key to all of this. Their relationship goes back very far. This is actually not the first time World Wide Wes has helped Mike Brown get a head coaching job. The first time he helped him was in 2005 when he was hired with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Brown and him were already very close friends, and World Wide Wes used what insight and connections he's had as basically there's a reason why you don't hear many interviews with him or he speaks to the public. There's a purposeful level of obfuscation that they want out there that kind of shields them from anyone knowing what they're thinking or doing or saying. That is very important. It fits a lot with James Dolan's mentality of not trusting the media too. It makes perfect sense. But Mike Brown and World Wide Wes, that was a idea of World Wide Wes that Brown was the right voice for LeBron at that point in time in his career. So he advocated for Mike Brown to be the head coach because he thought he would be the right guy to set him on the course, not just as a player, but as a person, that he would be there to guide him and mentor him as a man to man, which is another reason why you see Mike Brown now become the head coach for Knicks, because there is an emphasis on growing and maturing and evolving this group of players, not just as people, but as men and as businessmen as well, which I'll talk about later on in the podcast. But yes, this is the second time the World Wide Wes has used his influence, this at a much higher rate this time, for Mike Brown to be a head coach. And it makes perfect sense that he is coming in now, even off the fact that, and a lot of the disagreements I've heard about Mike Brown, and I agree with them, is he's been fired everywhere he was. Well, most coaches who are not currently employed have been fired previously, The Sacramento one, as we all know, was pretty public and
Yeah.
pretty messy. There was a lot of assumptions about De'Aaron Fox and his relationship with Mike Brown. I have no intel of that. I have no idea. But what I do know is there are three people that MSG had direct contact with that they could talk to that is currently in Sacramento. One of them is very obvious, Scott Perry. Now, Scott Perry wasn't there for the firing of Mike Brown, but Scott Perry is around the ownership and the GMs who did fire Mike Brown. So that was obviously a line that they talked to when they were trying to figure out what was going on in that situation. Another is a former Knick exec. Scott Layden is a scout for the Sacramento Kings. Another person that can be spoken to about the environment under Mike Brown as the head coach and how he collaborated with the front office. But the third one to me is the absolute most important because there is someone in Sacramento that knows Mike Brown exceptionally well, both as someone that he has coached, played under and coached alongside. Maybe the only player in NBA to this degree, and that's Leandro Barbosa. Leandro Barbosa was a player for the Golden State Warriors who won a championship with them when Mike Brown was a lead assistant, and he is currently an assistant coach for the Sacramento Kings and was an assistant coach for Mike Brown at the same time. But most importantly, Leandro Barbosa, one of his first friends in the NBA, the first people to help guide him is who? Worldwide Wes. Worldwide Wes was very active in getting him into America, assimilating him into America, getting him comfortable in America, and there's actually some activity at one point with Worldwide Wes, hoping that Scott Perry might be interested in drafting him when he was with the Detroit Pistons. Didn't work out that way. As we all know, his future was fairly awesome, winning chips in Golden State. But I'm sure if there was any questions they wanted answered because of that fallout, Barbosa would have been the perfect person because he knew him both before he was a head coach as an assistant in Golden State, and he coached right there on the bench with him in Sacramento. So he can answer the following questions. Does he take advice? Does he listen? Is he willing to rein in stars? Does he hold everybody equally accountable? And if there was any falling out, what was your objective viewpoint as someone who has both been coached by him and coached alongside him? You knew the front office, you still are with the front office, so he's still with the team. And I'm assuming that Barbosa's loyalty to some degree would be to keep his job and support the Sacramento Kings who sign his paycheck. So I think that level of transparency would match the honesty and transparency from Mike Brown to own any mistakes, be forthcoming with any mistakes, and you can obviously read the tea leaves that there was a very clear level of humility and honesty with what happened in that situation, enough to convince that front office that it would not be a repeat of history here in New York. So most of this is drawing some conclusions based on the personnel who are there and based on their relationship with Worldwide West. But again, when you're thinking about this hiring, you have to think about it through the prism of family. And the ones who did not make the cut to be the head coach maybe didn't fit the mold of the family they were looking for, but Mike Brown didn't have to because he's already been family.
Interesting. A lot to digest. A lot to digest in that breakdown. I think one thing that's standing out to me is you said you had to be completely blown away to be hired as head coach. It's funny. I kind of do feel like the Knicks got blown away by somebody, and they still went with Mike Brown. And I think they actually got blown away by James, the assistant coach that they're going after. But I think they just have that tie to Mike Brown because because what else has been talked about right now is that Mike Brown wants James on the coaching staff as an assistant coach. They see him as essential for helping create an offense that is extremely modern. He's, shout out to Lee who wrote this on a Substack. He helped kind of modernize the offense for the Pelicans. He's actually seen around the league as an offensive savant. So the Knicks really want him here, and I think Mike Brown wants him here too because I think from what I see, one of the problems that might have been happening with the Kings is the first year Mike Brown was there, offensively went well. The second year he was there, no one was caught by surprise anymore. And other teams were able to adjust to what the Kings were doing. And it might help to have an offensive coordinator to help adjust as things are happening. So yeah, I don't know if you have any insight on James being a Knick.
Well, from what I have inferred and a little bit of what I heard, that there was intentionality with the order and process in which the Knicks did things. Some of the things that could have been looked at like WTF, why the hell are you hiring James Borrego, who obviously doesn't have what could be perceived as not having the strong leadership skills,
Right.
but not in a mind a stepping down from brainiac to brainiac, but a stepping down in like backbone and kind of strength of character and voice in a locker room from Tibbs to Borrego is that's very strong.
Yeah,
Where it's not so with Tibbs to Mike Brown. There is a level of identity there between those two personalities. I think they reached out to Borrego beforehand to speak to him plainly and get permission from the team before they're getting permission to try to steal him as an assistant. It's hard for an organization or owner to say, no, you can't interview my assistant coach when they don't have an upgrade. But what the team would view as a lateral move, because New Orleans ain't going to admit that New York is a better organization. They don't see us as equals and peers, and even more so competitors. They're not going to allow one of their assistant coaches to leave for a very
similar
similar job in a bigger market. So I think they were being perceptive and saying, let's interview him as a head coach.
That's smart.
Let's give him a bigger shot. Let's honestly hear him out and see what he does, with the idea that this is also an interview to be the lead assistant and to talk to him about what it would take for him to be the lead assistant. Let's feel him out. Is he interested? Much easier to do when you have him in a room as a head coaching opportunity than if he was in New Orleans and you're trying to fleece him with a brand new New Orleans front office with Joe Dumars, who doesn't want to look like a dumbass publicly and losing one of his top assistants. Because let's be honest, New Orleans took a huge uptick offensive rating. They were bottom of their rating last year at 96.5 was like 10 points below the second worst. They were the only team under 100 in offensive rating. You have to really think about just how bad that was. That's early 1990s offense. 96.5. That is horrific offensive rating. And he bumped that to over 105 in his first year. Like that shows the brain power of Borrego, with specifically on spacing. Spacing between not just where the players are standing, but how they're using their body. How are they positioned to get into that quick roll or to that quick double screen based on where they're standing and position on the court? He makes things freer and flower to where it's not just read and react, but read and react with purpose and constant off-ball motion. I think Borrego would be a great compliment. Wrote about it in the Substack for KOT. Feel free to read it. It's a free article. But I think there was a lot of purpose and aptitude in how the interviewing process went on and why the length was it. Wasn't just about Jason Kidd. There's also getting a full intel on who could potentially fill out this bench when Mike Brown was hired.
Great points. All game points. I don't know if you guys have any insight or any comments on James Borrego hiring. Or if you have any, or if we just want to ask Lee some questions, because he seems like to have all the information today.
I think Lee. I think Lee's probably giving us the deepest information we've heard.
Yeah.
If you want to be educated on it, please hit the sub chat. I did pin it to the top of the chat. Sign up for the Substack. Lee's putting out gems. So please subscribe to the Substack. Get the emails.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a paid article where he does an interview with Bickerstaff as well. So if you want to get the inside stuff, subscribe to the Substack for the paid version. But you can also subscribe for the free one as well. So
that's a great point. Touch on that very quickly. When I was hearing that Mike Brown was going to be the leading candidate about 2.5-3 weeks ago, I started reaching out to the people that he was closest with. And the one I wanted to talk to the most was his first boss. He was a video intern in Denver under Mike Brown and then an assistant coach in Washington. Under Bernie Bickerstaff. They're still very close friends that still talk. And so I talked to his former mentor. And the thing that I walked away the most from that conversation, and I think this is another reason why Mike Brown was hired, is that he constantly talked about Mike Brown's willingness to evolve. Is that you can never judge him on a prior stop because he is a malleable human being, capable of evolution, capable of changing his perception or his ideology based on the personnel he has and the collaborative team he's working with. And Bernie was very instrumental in me becoming more optimistic in Mike Brown, because Tibbs was so the team, his imprint was so deep and entrenched on everything from decision making on the roster to if rookies played to the way that the team played on offense and defense. It was so easy and predictable. Then Mike Brown, it's not going to, we're not no longer going to be a predictable team. Then Mike Brown's going to do everything he can to take everyone's input, similar to Leon Rose, and put out the best product on the floor on both sides of the court.
That's good to know because, offensively, I feel like we get together, especially if we do end up hiring James Borrego. But defensively, I still feel like there's much to be desired. What I've been hearing from like Kings beat writers and things is like the defensive schemes have been really lacking. I know people kind of argue me that he improved the defense from the bottom to about mid, but it seems like they gave up a lot of threes. Does that sound familiar? Like the Kings were like bottom of the league on 3-point shooting, defending the 3-point shot. A lot of drop. Sound familiar? A lot of blitzing. A lot of blitzing, pick and rolls, and not a lot of variation. So I'm hoping that he's able to kind of investigate those things about himself and change and evolve some of the defensive things that he's doing. And like I said, and here's the thing: even with my criticisms of Mike Brown and my hope to get somebody else, he's a Knicks coach right now. So if you're a Knicks coach, I'm gonna root for you. I'm not the guy who's gonna root for someone to fail to feel right. It's like I want this team to win. I want this team to win the championship. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope they actually get a defensive coordinator here. But to me, those seem to be the glaring things defensively. He has to adjust from the Kings to the Knicks.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add something really quick. But I think one thing I would be looking out for is, because I know that with Borrego, with him coming to the Knicks as a offensive coordinator of sorts, like he's a coach that believes in quicker pace. He's a coach that believes in ball movement and things of that nature to get the best out of the offense. And what I'll be interested to see is the Knicks these past seasons under Thibs was a ISO heavy team, meaning that there wasn't much ball movement at times. Brunson would have the ball in his hand and he would be pounding the rock, taking his man, one-on-one, set a screen. Then Brunson just attacks the offense and gets his shot, whatever the case may be. So what I'd be interested in seeing is, I think, how does Brunson adjust? Because if we're going to bring in a coach that's going to emphasize ball movement and emphasize off-ball movement, cuts and things of that nature, and trying to make the offense easy for other players on the team to get shots, like the role players and things of that nature. How does Brunson adjust to that kind of offense? I think that's one of the things I'll be interested in seeing next season with these changes.
Agreed.
John J. Ellis, you talked about defensive coordinator. Haven't heard anything about that. I'm not sure if they have even started the discussions with people who they might have in mind with that. I'm sure they have a list. I have no sources in the Knicks front office, so I do not know Gerson Rosas. We're only friends on LinkedIn, right? So I'm not talking to Gerson Rosas. I'm talking to other media members primarily. I'm hearing Rick Brunson is 100% lock at this point. So that can change because my source is not Leon Rose. And if your source, unless it is Leon Rose, then you can't say anything is absolute. So that could not happen, but I'm hearing it is, and I'm hearing there's no chance Taylor Jenkins comes on as an assistant. That was an interest only as head coach and not as an assistant coach. And I have confirmed, I've heard the same things, Ian, probably maybe not from the same people, but that Dave Ehrman and Mo Cheats and Mark Bryant are probably going to be back as well, at least 2 or 3 of those. But Mo Cheats is someone that Leon Worldwide West has known since the 80s, as was Kenny Payne. When Kenny Payne was a player in Louisville, Worldwide West was friends with him and at Louisville games and celebrating with him after wins. So that's another reason why Kenny Payne was one of the very first hires they made. Again, you have to view everything the Knicks do through the prism of family. and that's very important. And then with the idea of Mo Cheats was a friend of Worldwide West when he was working at a shoe store in New Jersey. They became friends, and that relationship carried on through the years. At every assistant coaching and head coaching job that Mo Cheats had, that relationship maintained behind the scenes. So it made sense that he would probably be back too, because it's, again, families want to have their relatives around each other, even if it's not by blood, it's by loyalty, and that's very important to understand.
Yeah, I'm not shocked that Rick Brunson ain't going nowhere. I'm not gonna hold you. Not shocked at all. Absolutely not shocked.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything to add or ask?
I really, my thinking is along with Lee's. I assumed it was because when I look at the Knicks and how they operate, they kind of see each other as experts, and there's certain experts on those benches. I don't think they were gonna just clear out and just let him pick, because I think they see certain ones as experts. So it's not. I don't think it's. I don't think it's weird that
Yeah.
he's not picking an entirely new staff.
I want to reiterate these are not my opinions. These are things that I'm hearing. My opinion is Mike Brown. I'm with Ryan. Mike Brown was not my first choice, right? I preferred Mike Denori number one, Taylor Jenkins number two. I wanted a totally different identity. What do I know? I'm just a fan,
Yeah,
right?
me too.
It also writes stories. So I don't know as much as Leon Rose. That's certainly not any of those interviews. I don't know jack shit about what happened in those interviews. I don't know anything about the conversations. But this was not the choice that I wanted. This feels a little too similar to Tom Thibodeau, in my opinion. I think there's some upgrades offensively, certainly, and downgrades defensively, although Tibbs kind of lost his touch defensively these last 2 years, and you can make an argument against that. But I really wanted something totally different. And to me, this was more of the same in one regard. This was family hire. Like, this is someone they absolutely not just trust. They love this person. That was with Tibbs, also with Mike Brown.
The one thing I will say, even with my concerns, the one thing I do expect, and I think Brock Aller will appreciate, is Mike Brown's propensity to actually use more of the roster. So we should have more of a rotation, more rest for the starters. I can see them trying to do like a little bit of a faster pace. Although with Jalen Brunson being the point guard, I'm not sure how fast he can get it for the entire game. But at least maybe the pace we have will be a lot cleaner, maybe, because sometimes our fast breaks seem a little helter-skelter, to be honest with you. So maybe there's like a better system or principles to help that helter-skelter be a little bit more organized. But those are some of the things that when I ask the question, who's better coach, Tom Thibodeau or Mike Brown, people will say Mike Brown because he's willing to play the bench. And even though I don't agree with that entire assessment, because I feel like being a coach is more than just being willing to play more people, I do feel like that's something that can still help us long term because we have so many good players and potential players. Like, it should be good for us long term. Regardless, we just need to get the right systems in place so our players can strive at the highest level.
Well said.
Yeah. Salute to the chat too. Let me get to some of these. Let me get to some of these super chats because Parrish Duggar is showing us some love. He sent 2 super chats. One for $5 says Coach under Pop, Coach Kobe LeBron, Coach Curry 44 games when Kerr was out, Coach of the Year, willing to develop youth, team communication. It seems like he's on board with this hiring. Shout out to Parrish Duggar. He also says another $2 super chat says mature team and leaders that makes this coach solid. So he likes the hire. He likes that. So you know what? As much as I don't like the family first approach to everything, it's gotten us this far. Hopefully he gets us to the promised land because the East is wide open. The East is absolutely wide open. But yeah, hopefully Bickerstaff was in line when he said he's going to improve on his past mistakes.
I hope so. My personal feelings on this move, I do not see it as an upgrade, but you can't argue that it's not a different voice. And I think Tom Thibodeau toward the end had lost the locker room, which is shocking to say But based on the exit interviews and the intel that was given by both Shams Charania and Ian Bedley, again, not clutch points, reputable, two sources, they said that the voice has waned and roles were undefined. That's a loss in confidence, in my opinion. So sometimes all you need is a different voice, not necessarily a way better voice, but just someone who's implementing different principles and establishing a different hierarchy. I think is important, and Mike Brown seems to be very capable of that. But Sacramento certainly had a hierarchy. However you feel about it, the absence of Tion Ellis, Keegan Murray too low, whatever. I don't think DeMar DeRozan was his choice, but he had to work with that. The Sabonis role as facilitator, the offense being ran through him, and then the De'Aaron Fox role as executor on ball was dynamic, and we kind of have a semblance of that almost verbatim here in Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. So I think you're going to see that those three assists in the playoffs of Brunson and Cat. We'll never see that again. I think there's going to be a high usage continuity between those two, and the offense, hopefully, in my opinion, is starting to be run through Karl-Anthony Towns and not Jalen Brunson, which presents a whole new opportunities for everybody else to eat a little bit more and a little bit more often. Where the offense, the Princeton is essentially a stripped down ISO or an over reliance on ISO as a primary initiator, but it also involves a lot of off ball movement. The Knicks didn't always consistently run, and I would like to see some more off ball. We talked about this, bro.
Yeah.
Like off ball screen setting for curl, catch and shoot. But I think guys like OG Anunoby, Deuce McBride, and hopefully Landry Shamit's resigned, they eat the most with this new offense.
Lee, I do have a question for you. Do you think that he needs to have an imprint on this roster?
No, I don't. No, I don't think he's going to get it either. Just because that was such a point of contention with Tom Thibodeau. I mean, that was a reported point of contention. And it got worse and worse as time went on, where Tibbs was really fighting some of the moves. The Kemba and Fournier was the most prominent, but Leon was wrong in that regard. Like, those just weren't right fits with not just with Tibbs, but the rest of the roster, especially defensively. Kemba was cooked, but no, I don't think he's going to have much of an imprint. He'll definitely be asked because Leon lights a chorus of voices, and then he absorbs that chorus and makes a final decision. Sometimes it's difficult for him to make the final decision. Sometimes the final decision leans more toward Worldwide West or more toward Brock Aller. Rarely did it lean more toward Tibbs, but I think Mike Brown is going to be heavily collaborative in this process, not just with the players that play, but in terms of the offense that's ran and defense that's ran once this entire bench is constructed. The team, if you think about it, on paper, mirrors his Sacramento squad a lot. Like a lot. So that's exciting to me, to where it's not like trying to fit a square peg through a round hole. This is going to be there's going to be a semblance of continuity and familiarity here, absorbing this roster, especially with Brunson, Fox, and Sabonis Cat.
Agreed. Like I said, I feel like the offensive ceiling goes higher. There's a few more concerns I want to talk about too. One person that should be on high alert for this season, 2025-2026, is Josh Hart. Right? I feel like Josh Hart, he's going to have a diminished role, I would say, this season. But all jokes aside, Josh Hart does not like to practice. He's openly said he hates practice. I think one of the problems with Mike Brown is he is a tough coach. He's a hard-nosed coach. He gets in your face, he yells, he curses. But he also practices. If you've been reading the articles about Tibbs and the way he runs practices, he doesn't run a lot of practices. Because Tibbs has been criticized for running his players into the ground. So because he's been criticized for running his players into the ground, he chose not to practice a lot. Mike Brown is the opposite. All right? He runs hard practices. Josh Hart does not like to practice. So I can see some friction happening with Mike Brown and Josh Hart from the rip. Also, Knicks clear path to the Eastern Conference Finals this year with the Pacers being hurt and the Celtics being hurt. I kind of feel like with Mike Brown, we need success. I feel like this is unfair to say, but I feel like the earlier we get to some big success, the better. Because like Thibodeau, Mike Brown's voice at least his reputation of his voice seems to kind of wear on players over time, because of how hard he coaches. So I kind of feel like it's kind of important for this team to get some early success this season, get to the finals, so so he can be solidified, and so he can have a reputation of, okay, well, he coaches hard, but look at where he got us. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the Villanova guys, they get coached hard. That's what they come from. They come from the coach hard tree. Jalen Brunson's not going to mind. You see what his dad did with him when he was younger. But I don't know if our whole team is built like Jalen Brunson. You know what I'm saying? Just like when you was reading up about, when you're hearing about what De'Aaron Fox was doing with Mike Brown. De'Aaron Fox liked being coached hard by Mike Brown. He didn't care. That's how he was brought up. But his teammates wanted him fired. Kind of sounds like similar to what was happening here. Jalen Brunson probably liked Tom Thibodeau. Other teammates, not so much. So that's just certain things to keep an eye on. We need to get some early success this season and some proof of concept, so you can justify keeping on longer term. So that's all I got to say. I don't know if you guys want to respond to that.
I probably have a couple things on that one. I know for like Josh Hart part, I'm excited to see less of Josh Hart, because I think Josh Hart has gotten used to playing 40 minutes a game, and he has paced himself through the game. Mm-hmm. And I think when he played shorter minutes, he made real impact every time he was in the game, because he didn't pace himself. Like, that's fact. If I'm going to be in here for a few minutes, I'm going to make as much impact as I can before I go out. And I think when he was pacing himself for 40 minutes, it was hard to watch. And I think lesser is more for Josh Hart.
Good point.
Yeah, and I also agree with Fritz on that, because what I was going to say is the fact that Josh Hart's going to play less minutes, and the fact that, because, again, they emphasize pace. Josh Hart is actually one of the players on the team where he pushes pace. Like, Josh Hart doesn't really play slow. He plays faster. And a lot of times when he's in the game, like, he will push the ball up the court and try to get an easy shot, or try to create off the dribble, as opposed to the rest of the team likes to play in the half court. So I think Josh Hart actually thrives in transition. And I think that's one thing that the coach staff is going to like about Josh Hart, the fact that he does actually push the ball.
Great analysis. I'll add a little bit, but I thought Fritz really clicked on the Josh Hart point. I think the pressure is on for Mike Brown from the get. It's very fair to say ECF is the floor. I'm not on the thinking that it's finals or bust, or if he doesn't make the finals in year one, he should be fired. I think that's absurd. But I do think the expectation is, why do we not get back to the ECF? Yeah. There's no reason not to, especially with a hyper weakened Eastern Conference. Really, the only competition out there is Orlando, Cleveland, Atlanta. The teams after those three, in Atlanta, to me, I talked about the pod, I think their offseason was overhyped. It's really a huge chasm after those three. Orlando and Cleveland are the only two that I think pose any real threat, with Orlando being the top for me. But if you raw Hebrew, one shot him out again, he had a great video today, and he talked about how Tom Thibodeau teams start out slow. Very true. We saw it every year. They start out slow, up and down. Then January, they hit their stride after some type of roster tweak that he does, whether it's going from 9 to 8, 8 to 9, sometimes 10, changing the scheme, starting to switch more ball screens, whatever it was. We saw the improvement. Mike Brown's the opposite. Mike Brown teams seem to start out quick, especially in his stint in Sacramento. They started out quick out the gate and developed a lot of continuity with just more off-ball movement. It's one of the benefits of the principles of the motion offense is that everyone has a chance to eat. So I think we're going to see the Knicks to really develop chemistry, specifically the small ball screens, which I talked about in the Mike Brown article, is a huge staple of his offense and Borrego's offense. A lot of guard to guard. We did not see enough of that under Tom Thibodeau. I'm talking specifically you, Deuce McBride, Josh Hart. Let's start using you more as a screener. Let's really activate him as a screener, which then it makes how you cover him more difficult, because he's setting opportunities for other people. And then once you have to double that person based on who it is and personnel, he has an easier cut to the basket instead of trying to drive into a wall. So to me, I think there's a lot of benefits of Mike Brown being the coach out the gate. And I think we're going to see that this season. Also, just because this Knicks team has a lot of continuity. You can't undersell that. They've been playing together for a long time, and they're super uber talented. This is a badass starting five, no matter whether you have Hart in there, Deuce in there, or Mitch. It might be the best in the NBA. And by the end of this offseason, who knows what trades happen? It could be even better. But I'm just saying, I expect big things from the gate.
Yeah. And you know what, too? Like, the thing I'm looking forward to the most with Mike Brown, with all my criticisms and kind of just weariness and anxiousness, is like last season, we never saw a 5-out offense. We never saw a 5-out lineup the entire season. We saw a 5-out lineup game 7 of the finals. Shamit played 5-out with Cat, Brunson, McCall, OG with 5 minutes left. And it's like once he did it, it's like didn't even know how to use it. Because it's like I'm watching Brunson get a screen, Cat's wide open at the top of the key for 3, and passes him up. Like, that's an easy 3 for Cat. Easy 3 for Cat, but we never played 5-out. So for Brunson to have that be like muscle memory. Oh, the paint's open, they're collapsing, Cat's gonna be open. Like, that's the one thing that I'm excited about, and not even to say that we have to use 5-out all game. We have to even start with it, because it seems like the front office is leaning towards the double big lineup, which I don't mind. But I just want variety in the lineup. Even if we do with the double big lineup, I still want to see a 5-out lineup for a stretch, just to see what it looks like. You know what I'm saying?
I think the 3 big there were okay. First of all, y'all know I'm a Tom Thibodeau supporter for the most part. Wouldn't call myself a fan. I defended him the last 2 years on this channel. There's some great episodes of me beefing with Fritz and me beefing with Ebony about whether we should keep him or not. But he had many sins. And his 3 biggest sins in mine was one that JO's just hit the nail on the head, was the fact that we had a 5-out lineup. We never played 5-out. Is absolutely absurd to me. 2 is that Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns had so few assists to one another. As good of a passer as both of them are, that 2-man game was never fully utilized consistently. We saw punches of it, like in January, February, we kind of increased. Then we started seeing a little bit more in that in the Detroit series, and then we just kind of went away from it. Spot Boston, and then Indiana, we saw almost none of it. That was really concerning to me, because it's like you don't know how to maximize what you have in front of you. Is really concerning. And the third one is the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns, the best shooter in NBA, is not shooting threes. What in the hell is going on? You're still averaging 42% from the season. You're barely heaving over 5 a game. Like, that's the type of guy like Debo. You give the ball to him, you allow him to have maybe 25%, 20% of your shots are heaves, especially above the break. For some reason, he shot really poor from there. He was more advantageous as a catch and shoot shooter than he was above the break, which was the opposite of what he was in Minnesota. So you actually changed the strengths of his game in order to fit a game plan for Tibbs that wasn't even effective all around. It didn't even make him better or his teammates better. It drew a lot of fouls. It caused a lot of turnovers. It's like trying to force him to that Julius Randle role where he is not that. And I think better utilizing the best players on the team was his biggest sin. And I do not think Mike Brown will repeat any of those 3 sins, personally.
I'd agree with some of that stuff, but overall, I'm not even going to push back on it, because I agree with most of what you said anyway. So I'm not even going to micro debate.
The 3s that you disagreed on, the 3s.
Yeah, the 3s, but not the entire sentiment of the 3s.
Okay, I had a feeling that was the one you were going to disagree on.
Not the entire sentiment of the 3s, because I do feel like Cat is a big man, and when you have little men on you, punish him, and I think he had success doing that. But that doesn't mean that. But I still, on the other side of that coin, feel like we did not utilize his 3-point shooting enough. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I agree. The defense that Tibbs, I think, is still stuck in the mind that people defend like 2005, 2008 when he was employing those ice screens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different game now. Guards can defend bigs by fronting, and we saw that scheme really be employed by Rick Carlisle with Indiana, where they're just like fronting Cat and they're denying him the ball, or they're trying to steal it and poke it away when they're giving that entry pass. So it lost its effectiveness as the playoffs went around. And I thought if there's any team you should be checking threes against, it was Indiana, personally, from my vantage point.
Okay, I agree with the Indiana point. It worked with the Celtics. It worked with Detroit. Indiana not so much. In a nutshell, when it came to Cat and his post game. All right, all right. We kind of just flowed into some basketball talk. Anything you guys want to mention when it comes to Mike Brown, James Borrego hiring, or you?
I do have a little bit more questions on Mike Brown. I do wonder, does this make Mitch less important, or does this? Because Mitch was kind of like our everything this year. We waited on him. Like, does this make Mitch obsolete? Because we mentioned the word 5 out, and his game doesn't scream 5 out.
I think as long as Karl Anthony Towns is here, Mitch is going to be important. And it's just figuring out how and when to use them together. That's how I see it. Because Karl Anthony Towns' defense is so south and Mitch is so north, you kind of need both of those guys to even it out. So that's the way I see it anyway. Like I said, the Timberwolves had like a the Timberwolves had a real scary team with that double big lineup. It's from Ian actually reported that that Mitch is kind of still, they didn't say in the plans, but their new signing, oh my gosh, why is the name escaping me right now?
Yabusele.
The Yabusele signing does not have any bearing on Mitch, according to Ian. They see Yabusele as a guy who can play next to Cat and Mitch, and not like an either or thing. So I still feel like Mitch is going to be important for us, or possibly could be important for us. He still hasn't signed an extension. Neither has Mikal Bridges, so that's something else to keep an eye on. But Ian saying that makes it seem like the Knicks might be waiting for something before the extension comes or something. Because why would Ian mention that if he didn't figure that Mitch was in the thought process?
I don't think they're going to trade anyone until Mike Brown has had at least half a season to see what works and what doesn't. I don't think because Mike Brown is hired, now all of a sudden Deuce is out the door, Mitch is out the door, Hart's out the door this summer. I think there's going to be a little bit of a holding period that allows for incubation of Mike Brown's philosophies into the offense and defense and see what works and what doesn't. I will say Mike Brown this is the most talented roster he's ever had to coach by far, not even close. The most talented. If you think about the LeBron rosters, they were actually pretty terrible. Shout out Dan Gilbert. But he's also never had a player like Mitchell Robinson. The closest he's ever had is maybe Verjao, but Verjao wasn't as switchable or dynamic as closing out on three-point shooters as Verjao. He's more standstill in the post. He did guard post-ups, but not necessarily shooters or mid-range shots. So he's never had a defensive weapon like Mitchell Robinson. I think he's going to end up realizing how much he has to lean on him to clean up Cat's defensive miscues.
Yeah.
Although I will say that Sacramento team, while they did employ drop, they also switched a lot, often. So I think that is going to utilize, that's going to play to Cat's strength. And I think they're starting to see more lineups of Cat at the 5. But Mike Brown, one of the things Bernie Bickerstaff said over and over again is he puts players in the position to succeed to their strengths. He doesn't put players out of position where it's weaknesses. So I think you're going to see a lot of Karl Anthony Towns at the 5 because of how dominant he is as a floor stretcher and a three-point shooter and being able to beat centers off the dribble with that shot that once he catches the ball on the free throw line and closer, he's pretty damn dominant at getting to the hoop. So I think we're going to see a lot of creativity. I wouldn't say it's 100% guaranteed that Mitchell Robinson starts. It might end up that way. I would not be surprised if Karl Anthony Towns starts the season as a starting center.
We will see. I mean, we'll see, because if you're saying that he's open to input, and then we're also hearing that Ian is, feeling like the Knicks are looking more towards the double big lineup, then who knows? But also, you know what? You never know. The summer is the summer. Last summer, Kolek was seen as a starting point guard, and then you never saw light. So you just don't know.
Tibbs be tipping, man.
I
But
will,
all right.
I will say this though, because Mike Brown does have a reputation of being a defensive coach. And if he is a coach that values defense so much, I do think he will see the value of Mitchell Robinson and give him playing time to where he can succeed and and make the same impact that he has made on the team in past seasons. So, based on the coach's personality, he should find a spot for Mitchell Robinson to get minutes.
Yeah, if you think about the way the roster's been constructed so far, it's kind of been constructed for Mitch to be the backup five because Yabusele is not a rim protector. He
Right.
can defend, especially defend the pick and roll pretty effectively, but he is not a rim protector per se, and neither is Ariel Hotporty, which leaves only one true rim protector on the roster, and Mitchell Robinson with Sims gone. So I think there's that when I look at the roster, I'm projecting Mitch is a backup five and Ariel Hotporty is able to play the four, and Yabusele is able to play the three. And there's that level of diversity in utilizing the bigs, which I think this season we're going to see Karl-Anthony Towns the five to mimic initially for Mike Brown's comfort what he ran in Sacramento, running the offense through Karl-Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns going to have an MVP season. I think I agree. Be the motivator in our group chat said Brunson could win MVP. I agree with that. That's very possible. I think Cat might end the season top five MVP candidate.
So wait, who you think is going to start if Mitch is on the bench? You going Shamit?
I think the person who's going to start is not yet signed. I think that my theory last year of Landry Shamet put him in that Kevin Huerter role. I made that Kevin Huerter role in the Substack article prominent for a reason because Shamet fits that shit to a T. I think he would be an excellent DHO participant with Karl-Anthony Towns on the perimeter in the high post, catching wide open clean looks from three. It's underpinned on Karl-Anthony Towns becoming a better strainer, and Landry Shamet, trusting Landry Shamet to be the point of attack defender as a shooting guard position.
One thing I will say, because there's been a lot of talk about like you're not gonna be able to afford Shamit. I actually did hear about a loophole in which we can afford Shamit.
Tell me.
Oh damn it! What's the dude's name on Knicks Film School? He talked about it. I forgot his name. Damn it.
Coincidence?
Yes.
Jeremy Cohen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like there is a loophole, and the loophole pretty much is if you wait, like I think it said 14 days in the season or something like that, then you kind of free up money where you can actually sign a player to a vet minimum deal. Which
that's what we did last year.
Yeah.
Like because you're supposed to have 14 players on a roster. Last year, what we did is we went in with 13, but there's like a grace period. So it's like there's like a certain amount of weeks before you get penalized.
Mhm.
So we took all that time just to save a certain amount of thousands of dollars. So it's probably the same idea where you're not hitting the 14, you're just taking that grace period before you make that signing.
Right. So for all intents and purposes, Shamit could be practicing with the team and getting the wink shrug deal, and we ended up signing him 14 days later. So keep an eye out for that.
Let me say it's fun having this role, be able to use my journalism experience and reporter training to the benefit of KOT, but it doesn't beat having a capologist like Fritz Alessandor or someone with level-headed intellectual takes like Ryan G, man. Shout out to both of y'all, bro. Like killing it with the takes. Fritz, man, telling you, bro, killing it with the capology. Great job.
Thank you.
And if you like all this insider news, capology, level-headed takes, and everything in between, hit the KOT show, hit that like and subscribe button. We're not even full strength. That's the crazy. We're not even full strength because we got Ebony, who's not partnering with us, who's a bright mind. Shout out to our new sister B, who's been battling some health stuff behind the scenes, but she's getting her way back. She's a beast too. I can't wait for y'all to get to know her over time. But we got a pretty nice squad running out for the KOT team for sure. This is like I'm not gonna hold you, man. This is like the most excited I've been about the cast since I've started. Straight up.
And you can't forget Phil Porto with the Knicks nightcap, the host with the most. I want to say, KOT family, if you're a believer, whatever faith you believe. Please lift our sister, be the motivator up. She's been dealing with some health issues, as well as Ebony has been dealing with some health issues as well. Please say a prayer for both of our sisters
Absolutely.
when you go to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow, because not every day is guaranteed, and we're lucky to have both of them in our lives. Not to go into details of what they're dealing with, but just lift them up in prayer for their health and their wealth, please.
All right.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ebony's fine. It's not so super serious, Ebony, but you know, she.
Right.
I don't worry you guys too much. But yeah, she is doing do a little something, but she'll be back. All right.
They'll both be back.
They'll both be back.
Yes, sir.
All right, yo, I feel like I've talked about everything I want to talk about. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else to it, but I'm good.
Bro pick.
Bruh.
Yup, I have one bro pick. Of course, if y'all been listening to the news, there's a certain player that is in deep trouble right now with the bookies out there. Malik Beasley. He gets my bro pick because apparently it's not even the fact that he's getting in trouble for gambling. It's the fact that when the news came out, all of a sudden people started digging. And they started digging like everybody this guy owes. And it's kind of crazy to me because it's like, yo, there has to be something going on. Because it's like, I saw like there was this article that came out with like everybody who Beasley owes. And it's like one of the companies he owes was like I think the apartment complex in Detroit where I guess he's staying and he's renting the apartment, and like the debt is like $14,000, and I'm like, all right, if you're earning millions of dollars, like one paycheck should be able to pay that off ASAP. Like, what's going on? And then
He owed Dane Gilbert. Gilbert.
Like that's crazy. And then he owed like this barbershop $26,000. I'm like, wait, hold up. How do you owe a barbershop $26,000? Like, what is going on here? And then again, there's a dentist that he owes $34,000 to, and I'm like, yo, like you're earning millions of dollars in the NBA. I'm sure one paycheck can clear all this debt ASAP. So where's your money going? And then on top of that, they said that I guess whoever he owes in the gambling world, whatever the case may be, that he actually used his like upcoming NBA contract as collateral to like cover the debts that he has.
Wow.
And I'm like, yo, what are you doing with your money? Like, what's going on? So yeah, Malik Beasley gets my bro pick. Like, yo, take better care of your money, man. Then you wouldn't have to be out here in games trying to cover spreads and stuff, trying to get your money up through the gambling, through the bookies and stuff. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what his credit score is. I don't know what his credit score, because like what? Like seriously?
Oh my.
You making millions?
Yo, betting is real, yo. The consequences of betting is real. We've been having these hunches about referees. I'm telling you, it's a matter of time before a referee gets caught. Because some of these games where they review something and they still call the bad call after review it, like a paper trail is coming. It's gonna be a 30 for 30. Yo, I even seen another. I don't even remember who it was. I think it was somebody on Golden State. Somebody was doing a breakdown of somebody on Golden State, and it's like this guy is he's gambling.
Gary Payton Jr.
Payton Jr. Yes, he said Golden State was up by 13 points, but it was like 1 minute left, and then he would lose money if the other team hit like 1-3, and the team ended up hitting a 3. And the Warriors won, and he just looked so upset and depressed. And like zoomed in on his face, and he's like, "Oh my god!" Ah. And it's like that's not how you would typically act if your team is up and won by 11. So they're like, obviously, this guy is betting, and he zoomed in on his mouth because you know they zoom in on your mouth, and they like read his lips and reacted when somebody missed a free throw with under a minute left to say like, "Oh my gosh, she cost me money." I don't remember what it was, but it was something obvious, but. Yeah, gambling is really prevalent in the NBA, and I won't be surprised if there's a lot more cases like this. So, yeah.
Agreed.
Hurts.
Bruh.
Yeah, Beasley, man. Yo, Beasley blew his money. He had his best season of his career.
Days away.
Yo,
Yeah, like
Days away.
dude's about to sign like a 3 year, I think like $40-something million deal, and that just gets
dog,
taken away from him with the betting allegations. Like it's crazy.
that is crazy, man. He went full Michael Jordan mode. You know, Michael Jordan was into the gambling too, but he had the contract to back it up at the time, I guess. I don't know. Oh man. All right, yo. The show, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you like and subscribe and share. Definitely check out the Substack at the top. Also, pay for the Substack too, because leave us some work. Like I said this before. This is before Lee even wrote for us, so I'm not even. You can check the archives. Lee is a very gifted, talented writer. He's probably one of the best writers I've met. Period. One in that sports world. The way he puts together emotions with facts and stuff, like like I said, I'm not saying that because he writes for KOT, because I was saying that before he wrote KOT. So if you're not subscribed to at least the free Substack, I don't know, you're crazy.
That is one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me.
I appreciate it.
And if I could hear that from 3 people, you're one of the 3. So
Appreciate it, man.
appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I had writers on the squad. I had some good writers on the squad, but yeah, you no joke.
Appreciate that a lot.
That is the show. Thank you guys for watching. Lee, let them know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, subscribe to Substack. Been trying to cover things from a unique vantage point and do it before anyone else does. The type of articles I've been writing, like what James Borrego brings to the NBA, or interviews with Bernie Bickerstaff in advance of the Mike Brown hiring, are things that no other website has done, and are things that would be very hard for a freelancer to get paid to do. These are type of articles that you can only find on KOT because of the collective power of our team and the platform that JLS gives us. So please subscribe, even if it's free. Just keep in touch with us as a team and support the movement. And then don't worry about me on Twitter. Go follow my guy, the NBA Economy Show, who's really been killing it all day today while we've been having this conversation. He is in the chat trying to get those lights up in the air, trying to make sure you're subscribing, putting all of our Twitter handles on there in the chat for you to follow us and be connected with the team so you feel like you're part of the movement and you're part of the family. Go follow him at NBA Economy on Twitter. He's been producing some incredible content, collaborating, and also breaking down the cap this is basically his championship right now, is talking about what the Knicks can and can't do. It's imperative for y'all to support all of us equally. So please go shout out my man NBA Economy on Twitter.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Fritz, man. Fritz, who knew when we met like years ago that you was editing and you was gonna be on the show and doing all this other, man. I'm proud of you, man. All right, yo, Fritz. Let them know they can find you, man.
Fritz handles on Twitter. Also, I have the NBA Economy on Twitter. Also, NBA Economy on YouTube. So yeah. So I'm kind of behind. I kind of like just taking all this Knick stuff in. But yeah, we're gonna get at it.
All right. And Ryan G, my guy, OG. What's going on, man? Let them know they can find you, sir.
You can find me on Twitter at RyanGKOT. You can also find me on Instagram at Sir G is Chillin'.
Sir G is chilling.
That's SIR. G is CHILLIN. And yes, subscribe to NBA Economy and subscribe to the Substack. Lee and Fritz are 2 talented people. Support them and subscribe to their content.
That's right. All right, yo. That is the show. Shout out to Phil. Thank you guys for watching. And as always,
shout out the Worldwide West. Everywhere we go, we leave a worldwide mess.
it's a mess down here in these Knicks YouTube streets. That's the show. We out of here.
Peace.
New York, big city of dreams.